What's up, guys? It's your boy, Skaven969 here to talk about Lazav Dimir Mastermind for my EDH deck. You know, a lot of people build them with certain archetypes like Mill or, blue-black good stuff. This is going to be a more, what's the word? Specific archetype. We've got 2 blue, 2 black, just like all the other in that set. So he has hexproof, very necessary. And the most important part, of course, whenever another creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you may have Lazav Dimir Mastermind become a copy of the card, except it's still Lazav. He's legendary, and he gains hexproof and this ability. Very, very useful. And that's because when you take control of their creature from the graveyard, if that creature comes back, it has a different name than Lazav, and you can pick any card with that ability. Here we start with the first land, Carol Atoll. Just some recursion with returning cards. As we go into the next card, Tainted Isle. Simple, get some black mana, blue mana as you need it. We have a Temple of the False God. Simple card. Kind of goes into the whole get more mana, pay more mana, but every deck needs to run something with high mana cost. Here we have Crypt of Agadim. Also gets you large amounts of mana. It adds black to your mana pool for each black creature in your graveyard, so not specifically because of Lazav's effect, but more of the deck running at efficiency. We have a Dwar Isle Refuge. Lots of people use this. It's just gain a life as it enters. We have a Fairy Conclave. Comes into play tapped, or you pay 2 and it becomes a creature with flying. Very useful just to get another attacker in, and as we all know, lands are very useful. As we go farther into the game, including Edge of Eternities, we're going to have different kinds of lands open up, different kinds of utilities. Of course, the most expensive cards are still lands, but let's consider every single basic an opportunity for something creative and unique that you could put in yourself. Every deck can be optimized, customized. As we know, the game is always evolving. We're going to get into the islands now. And with the game evolving, they changed how sagas work after 10 years. Very funny that because they're going to have a new set, they need to make that set stronger. So they're going to change the rules just to make the cards more playable. You could have just made a new rule or made a different kind of effect. It'd be like if we made Trample no longer assign lethal damage, and then we still made Trample Flample. Another type of card, we have a Mortuary Mire. Mortuary Mire enters the battlefield, put target card from your graveyard on top of your library. Just a very simple effect. Here we have Dimir Aqueduct to repeat those kinds of effects. We have a Sylvanite Temple. I think that's like a type of tribe of merfolk. Myriad Landscape for more land, of course, blue or black, whichever you choose. Sunken Hollow, just a quick island swamp for your Tainted Isle. And the titular Soul Ring for every commander deck. Of course, we also have Phyrexian Ingester, a card to eat your opponent's cards. When he enters, exile target non-token creature, it gets +X+Y, Y being its toughness, X being the tough power. Very, very useful. And we start getting into the first cloning effect, Mercurial Pretender. Kind of like a Sakashima 1,000 Faces, but not as expensive. For 5 mana, it's a clone, but it also has, for 4, return it to its owner's hand. Not sure if that works specifically with cards like Hearthstone, but if it does, it's even better. Here we have Traumatize, the first in the mill cards. We're not explicitly milling, but we are getting half their deck into their graveyard. Here we have Fiend of the Shadows. When it deals damage to a player, that player exiles a card their hand, and you may play that card as long as it remains exiled. What a neat card. I think we went over this with Edgar Markov, so just a versatile card. Promise of Power. Choose one, or you can entwine it for 4, so that's 5 mana or 9 mana. And you choose to draw 5 cards and lose 5 life, or put a put an XX demon where X is number of cards in your hand as it enters. Just another gain card, as we have a Reduce to Dreams. Return artifacts and enchantments to their owner's hands. Blue has good control cards. When the opponent's hand is full, they're going to have to discard something, and when they're discarding, Lazav triggers. Aetherize for another effect like that. When your opponent thinks they have the win and all-out attacks. This is the blue version of Fog, except return all attacking creatures to their owner's hand. We have next a Mirari. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you may pay 3, copy it. Aetherize is not exactly going to benefit from that, but we could play possibly Stolen Identity and copy it, and now we're ciphering onto 2 cards, and put a token onto the battlefield that's a target of target artifact or creature twice. Very useful. Even Lazav ciphered with this card. It's a great attacker. You could even cipher it onto your land if it was a creature. Jet Medallion, just reducing the cost of your blue and black spells is very important in this deck. Here's a black spell, Ghoul Caller Gisa. She's a 3/4. Sacrifice a zombie and pay black mana, or sacrifice another creature, pay black mana, tap her. Get an X/2/2 zombies, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. So, let's say you sacrifice your opponent's creature, it goes into their graveyard. Now Lazav can turn into that. We have Lighthouse Chronologist. You just want to dump mana into him. Eventually, he'll become, at the beginning of each end step, if it's not your turn, take an extra turn after this one. A card you want to protect, but it's going to last long in the long run. It's very, very strong for 2 mana, and the investment of leveling up, not that hard. Sire of Stagnation is going to help build up your army and give you card draw advantage, but it does exile the top 2 cards of the opponent's library. Not going to trigger Lazav, but it is a mythic Eldrazi with a very strong effect. Life's Finale, on the other hand, is more selective. You're going to play Lazav, you're going to Life's Finale, not really, but you are going to search your opponent's library and put them 3 creatures deeper into the graveyard. Reaper from the Abyss. If he stays on the field and he sees someone die, he destroys another a target non-demon creature. Very, very strong effect. Usually kill cards, you want to be as least restrictive as possible. Non-demon is a very, very useful target, as we have Demon of Wailing Agonies. For 5, he's a 4/4 demon, flying, and if you have Lazav, he gets +2/+2, so he's a 6, and he deals damage that opponent sacrifices a creature. Now Lazav's turning into the creature they sacrificed, possibly. We also have Necromantic Selection. Once more, we need to clear the board and then bring in your own super strong, overpowered creature. More board control. We have Ixodron. Part of the deck of this is not actually pulling attention to yourself. All your cards are very strong, therefore Ixodron puts all the opponent's cards face down, and it becomes that much power for every face down card. When you make plays with Lazav, you're being very intentional. You're not targeting people because they're the strongest, but you're targeting people because you gain something from their graveyard being full. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the toughness of the card returned this way. Now all the very, very strong creatures that are going to your graveyard kill a creature, and Lazav becomes that creature. Once more, we have one of the strongest vampires in the game, Drana Kalastria Bloodchief. -X to an opponent's creature, +X to her. It's just benefit. It's so good. And Washout. Return all permanents of the color of your choice to their owner's hands. Are you going to say blue or black? Not likely, but the option is still there. Concentrate. Straight up, 1 card for 3, might as well be Pot of Greed. And Avarice, an even stronger part of Pot of Greed. You just keep drawing for 2 mana, for 2 life and 1 mana. Phyrexian Metamorph, of course, one of the great shapeshifters of our time. For 3 mana, he becomes anything, and if you can reduce the cost of artifacts, he's even stronger. Wow, what a good card. And Ghostlit Stalker. Another great effect, you just want to pay 5. Target player discards 2 cards. Play it only as a sorcery. You channel him as well. For 1, you just have a creature on the board. It's useful in that regards. And he's not a scoundrel monger, but he's definitely doing his best effect for discarding 2 cards. Bloodhusk Ritualisk is another discard card. And now you start to see the combo of targeting discard versus milling discard versus kill cards. We have so many kill cards that you may want to exile X cards from your graveyard, draw X cards, lose X life, just to get that extra advantage. We have a Palace Siege, because at the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. That's the one you want. You just want to keep recurring cards. We need Whelming Wave. Return all creatures except Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. We're not going for tribal octopus serpents, but we are going for strong creatures. So a strong creature being a River Kelpie. He is definitely another permanent put in the graveyard, draw a card. Whenever a player played a spell from the graveyard, draw a card. And he has Persist himself. So he's benefiting from all the graveyard play. Persist, of course, one of the greatest effects. I'm sure they're going to try and change it for the next Lorwyn set. Evacuation, return all creatures to their owner's hands. Once more, the strongest blue effects we can use to get the opponent to start discarding. Sword of the Animist, so that you always have a reason to attack. You get a land, thin out your deck, so you can draw more cards like Liliana, the Heretical Healer. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, she transforms. So something's going to die, she's going to transform. What she transforms into is a Planeswalker that's really strong. Recoil. Now this one, because of how it's worded, return target permanent to its owner's hand, then that player discards a card from his or her hand. You could very much use this as a 3-cost kill card for a discard effect. Very, very neat. Lazav loves it. Dregs of Sorrow, another destroy X cards, draw X cards. Wow. Very, very useful because you want to have the advantage. You don't want to just kill cards, you want to have the advantage killing cards. Of course, we have Consuming Aberration, strongest card in the game for milling. So when you attack, the opponent starts to mill cards until they get a land. Storm Surge Kraken, another card with Lieutenant. So if you have your Lazav, Dimir Mastermind in play, +2/+2 to your Kraken, and when he becomes blocked, you draw 2 cards. The opponent's not likely to block it. You're going to have card advantage. And we have the other Jace, Vern's Prodigy. Draw a card, discard a card. If there are 5 or more cards in your graveyard, exile Jace. You're probably going to have a very large graveyard. Bring him back, and you can ostracize your opponent. Target opponent reveals his or her hand, choose a creature card, and that player discards that card. What do you think? For 1 mana, you just chose one of their best cards in their hand, and you got to become it for Lazav. You could say the same thing for all types of cards. So here we have Solemn Simulacrum. Useful card, but overshadowed now that so many other ramp spells exist. He's just generic for blue-black. Possessed Scab itself is another card with great recursion, so it enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery or creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Having the option of all 3, he's very strong. He could have very well have been in Lord of Tressorhorn. Here we have Consuming Tide. Each player choose a non-land permanent they control. Return all non-land permanents not chosen this way to their owner's hands. Then you draw a card for each opponent who has more cards in hand than you. Now we have another reason for advantage. All your opponents are returning cards. You're getting to draw cards. Probe is another good one. It has 3 mana cost, kicker, and just draw 3 cards, discard 2 cards from your hand, filling up your graveyard. If you paid the kicker cost, target player discards 2 cards as well. Wow, very, very strong. You've turned draw power into discard power. Here we have a reason for having such shitty lands. Vidalcan Plotter. When he enters the battlefield, exchange control of target land you control and target land opponent controls. Very, very neat. If you have a simple Mortuary Mire, you've already gained the effect from it. Might as well give it to the opponent for a better land that they have. They could very well have a crypt, a strong crypt effect, and Hedonist Trove needs all the mana it can to play a 7-cost enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target opponent's graveyard. You may play land cards exiled this way, and of course you may cast non-land cards. We have Wake the Dead, another strong effect. Cast Wake the Dead only during your combat on your opponent's turn. Return X creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, sacrifice them at the beginning of combat. You're going to have one last hurrah with these cards. They're going to be strong, and they're going to be swinging. Here we have Salimgar's Command. So, back to Khans of Tarkir, Dragons of Tarkir. Counter target non-creature. Return target permanent to its owner's hand, -3/-3, or destroy target planeswalker. Personally, destroy target planeswalker is one of my favorite lines in a card. Visions of Beyond, just because, of course, with Lazav, most people are going to have lots of cards in their graveyard. You're going to draw 3 cards. Nice. Here we have Mind Funeral. I'm sure you've seen quite a bit of this for a Lazav deck tech, but Mind Funeral, of course. The old version of the mill until you get a land. Here we have target opponent reveals cards from the top of his or her library until 4 lands are revealed. That player puts all cards revealed this way into his or her graveyard. Very cool. Love Grixis. Love Alara. Love that whole set. Diabolic Tutor. Of course you want Smeagol to get the card he needs. Oblivion Sower. Exile cards and you can play lands from them. Very, very strong. Nivenral's Disc. Once more, all the control you could ever want. Worst Fears. Now we have Mirari's effect going off twice. You're doing 2 Worst Fears at a time. It could be stronger, but we're not going top tier. We're going to control the game. Sleeper's Robe. Effectively a Mask of Riddles. Grind Clock to start the pain. So every turn it increases target player. So once one player is dead, you start on the other. Supplant Form, of course. Target creature is returned and you put a token onto the battlefield of that creature. You've essentially stolen their best card. Graveblade Marauder. Death Touch. Deals combat damage to a player. Lose life to equal to the number of creatures in your graveyard. An effective, strong attacker. Lorthos, the Tidemaker, the strongest attacker of all. When you pay 8, he taps 8 permanents. They don't untap. Wow, and it's a good thing he doesn't get returned. Here's Jace's Mindseeker, one of our favorites for milling the opponent, and then you get to cast an instant or sorcery from their graveyard. Spinal Embrace to take a creature only during combat. And it has haste. You sacrifice it and you gain life equal to the toughness. So for 6 it's expensive, but you do gain the mana back, gain the life back. Victimize again. Choose 2 target creatures in a graveyard, sacrifice your creature. If you do, those creatures return to play tapped. With all the high cost creatures, Victimize is coming out with a lot better creatures coming back from the graveyard. Repay in Kind is one of the effects to make everyone's life total become equal and then equally dead. Sudden Spoiling, a very, very useful effect. Everything with Split Second is not going to be counterable. Sure, there are special actions like discarding, but Sudden Spoiling being the strongest effect to reduce them all to a 0/2 so they pose no threat. The black version of Fog. Ugin's Insight for 5, Scry X. X is the highest converted mana cost of permanents, and then draw 3 cards. Just useful to have a Sangromancer flying. Something goes to the graveyard, you gain 3 life. When your opponent discards, you gain 3 life. So all of the effects helping you build back your life total. Talent of the Telepath, a very strong card with spell mastery. Far and Away, a split effect, which has return target creature to its owner's hand, and then you may pay the other 3 to target player sacrifices a creature. And we have, finally, Monomania. Wait, where the fuck is Worst Fears? That was my worst fear, losing Wit's End.